What's up, my XRP brothers from another mother and my cute XRP sisters? This is Rob with the Rob007 channel coming to you from a beautiful Venice Island. Absolutely gorgeous day down at the beach. We are in season 5 out of 5, and the title of this episode is XRP They Want You Out, What You Need to Know to Make Generational Wealth and What You Need to Do. Watch this episode to the end, and I tell you what, whether you have been in this space for 10 years or 10 days, hopefully this will help you out on days like today. Let's roll up the window just in case we get a little noise from some of the traffic coming by. So, and a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. This channel is for educational entertainment purposes only. And thank you as always as we close in on 8,000 subscribers. Appreciate each and every one of you. We actually crossed over 500,000 views on this channel as of today. Really, really exciting. And so far within the last 28 days, almost close to 200,000 views for the last month. And but indeed, if you are new to this channel, if you would hit the subscribe button to subscribe, the bell for notifications, that like button, tap it, slap it, whatever you are feeling for a hump day. And if you do Twitter, follow me at Rob, XRP 007. Love my Twitter family. And also real quick, my sponsors in 3 minutes or less, iTrustCapital, the link is in the description down below. No fees on custody, 1% on executional trades. They will have an ROI on your XRP. You get $100 when you sign up. What's not to like about that? Number 2, Caleb and Brown, one of my top places to custody. No fees for custody. You can pick up the phone and call in. And when we hit the banana zone, make sure that you can actually execute a trade, because it ain't going to happen on all exchanges. I got my sell orders already into Caleb and Brown. Link is in the description. Tell them Rob sent you. And also Kraken, having so much fun over on my Kraken exchange. Yes, they give you up to $150 when you open up an account. Link is in the description. I use them almost every single day, and actually they're in the news once again today. So love the people, because I can get a tight trade without very much slippage. And last but not least, if you're looking for an ROI on your XRP next level at the highest grade of institutional custody you can possibly get on planet Earth, email me your name, number, and a good time to call you. Emails in the description. Be leery of the imposters on this channel. Last but not least, we are launching our Patreon group. It's going to be $19.99 a month. Well, hopefully you'll see that you get a lot of value out of that. The description's in below and what I will be doing. In addition to just real short, we'll be doing 4 1-hour Q, and we'll do a Q&A once a week. So basically 4 times a month. And also we'll be calling out some of our trades in our private Discord. That's where that will occur. Cannot wait. And last but not least, we will be launching live streams once again on a platform called Switch. Kind of delayed on doing this stuff with all the markets in red. So anyway, we'll have both of those out and let you know when they're live. In the comments, Mr. God says, I did the same thing. I think he's talking about how I parlayed some of my other tokens and said, you know what? I'd rather be an XRP. I did a switch on those. Really excited I did, and talked to a couple other people thinking along the same lines to say, you know what? I think I want to know, and the thing that I know versus the thing I don't know. And also, this is from, this is, I can't recall what I wrote here. Joe says, I'm ready for the banana zone. Yeah, who's not? I mean, so totally I'm ready for the banana zone. And also in the comments, Pablo says, you are the James Bond of crypto. Thank you. Be still my beating heart. That sure does the body good. And also in the comments, Dr. Nobody says, dumped extra dollars into XRP after hours. Toast to you, my friend. I like how you think. Currently, it's just, again, so ugly. Bitcoin did lose 90,000, trading at 89,000 as of about an hour ago, down about 4%. XRP's just brutal. Looking at 204, trying to hold $2, being down 8% on the 24-hour. Ugh, and ugh. Yeah, and you know what? I never thought we'd be going into 2026. I never thought I'd be going into 2026 without us having the Clarity Act pass and a quote unquote, banks using XRP by the end of this year. And so it's really like painstaking to kind of think about moving into a whole new year, unless of course we have a $20 XRP, and then that should give everybody nice ample coasting money. So I'm hoping for a $20 XRP by the end of the year. And yes, I still have my bet for a $100 XRP by the end of the year. The bet still holds. There are a reason why, and on days like today, just remember and remind yourself, it ain't easy. There's a reason why they say that wealth is the transfer of money from the impatient to the patient. And so it goes, another year. Up my countdown clock, the latest one, this is for a banks using XRP for large wholesale payments. The farthest date, the latest date is now set at the end of June, which I've been talking about last couple of weeks. That's about 150 days from now, when I think that XRP will be a minimum of high three digits to 4 digits minimum, and it could happen a lot sooner. I call that median date. Still holding on to it, the end of March for that to happen. Kraken, talking about my buddies over at Kraken putting the F in fun. Get this, XRP hit, I know you heard it by now, $91 on Kraken ever so briefly. Were they testing it? Comment down below and want to know what you think. And you know, 91 bucks, I think that's called a bigger boat. Poolside Chad says XRPC giving us an update on Canary Capital did another 5 million today. And yes, they happen to also have a big ad in the Big Apple up in New York City at Times Square. That really tall, long billboard, and it just says Canary Capital. And so, yes, all want us to be the XRP canary that ate, you know, the canary that ate the XRP, the cat that ate the XRP canary. There you go. So anyway, Remy Relief, shout out to you, Remy, says, Viva the Todd Report, says Franklin Templeton. A lot of confusion on that. Apparently they had 2 ETFs. One launched today. The other one is supposed to launch today, not on the 24th. We'll know by tomorrow if we can get some kind of numbers on it. I looked to Chad Steingraber for that. And then tomorrow, quite exciting. We got a one that's quite large, not as large as Franklin Templeton, that is Bitwise. And then by the 29th, we'll have all 9 ETFs launched. That is Saturday, a week from this Saturday. And will we see 10 in BlackRock file as well? That would be absolutely epic. I'll say it again, worth repeating. Those 8 are 17,000% larger assets under management than Canary Capital. Let that sink in. Throwing BlackRock 160,000% larger. That absolutely is a supply shock, in my humble opinion. We'll be talking about other things that will be nibbling away at the supply up on the retail exchanges. Dark Defender for a little TA down by the beach. Really doesn't move my needle too much. He's actually looking at the highs and the lows of what we could do within this kind of next wave of targets. His median price is $11. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but I'll pass. Not financial advice. Jake Claver, he says, what do we got here? This is all goes, oh yeah, I think this is really kind of neat if you let this, you know, when you have days like today and we're waiting and waiting. He says all those Ripple announcements, and there have been so many epic announcements between Medico, it just list goes on. Hidden Road acquisition, it goes so many that we've had over the years, so many great announcements. He says it hasn't moved, has not moved the price, nor should it move the price, because if it did, then it would be indicating that it is a security. And he says the only thing that's going to move the price are when other entities not using Ripple start to use it. He mentions R3 Corda, the ETFs. So we got one we can check off right now with our first 2. We'll have 9 by the end of this month. And not only ETFs, but also he mentions the reverse carry trade, in which case XRP would go to settle the back end of the stock market as well as the derivatives market. So we'll be talking about that before this episode ends. And hard to believe that this Saturday is ISO 222. And did you know that Swift moves $5 to $7 trillion a day? Absolutely massive. So one day we'll maybe revisit that on the price on the Robert Mitchenick price calculator. Just in terms of the state of the economy, what we're talking about in terms of Jake talking about a liquidity crisis. We've talked about Bitcoin being one, the reverse carry trade being one. Also here in the U.S., the economy's not looking so great. This is from UBS saying that foreclosures, for one, the UBS says that we have a 93% chance that the U.S. is going into recession. That's a pretty big percentage. And just realize that also the car repos are the highest it's been since 2009. And they're not subprime, they're prime is the ones that's ticking up on the highest. Last but not least, foreclosures are on the rise. Expect Q1, Q2 to kind of be at the height. And then that boat market, man, it's like shooting ducks in a barrel. I mean, it's the boat market's really hit hard, so which is good news for me, right? Elon Musk on X payments. If you haven't seen it, he's talking about X payments to be coming forthcoming. And then if you've seen that cryptic tweet, he says, "I think I know what I want to do with X payments," and he highlights in that tweet a capital X, a capital R, and a capital P. Does he own XRP? I've always thought it's been zero doubt that he does for me. Doesn't make sense for him not to. Chris Green, I might have mentioned it yesterday, but I'll mention it as well. In addition to David Portnoy of Barstool Sports, well, Chris Green's also throwing his hat in the ring. He's a Bitcoin maxi out in Hawaii, living a life. He actually said he went long on XRP as well. Smoke Dog up on X for his ISO 222. Just again, this is going to be this Saturday for that. Will it move the price? No, but at that point, we do know that 11,000 banks that actually use SWIFT and also FedNow will be able to be on that new messaging system that has a little thing called rich data. That's called attaching XRP or RLUSD for payments. It'll take the most efficient one. And then we'll talk about the supply shock we've been talking about for months on this channel. I've been focusing on ETFs, and also I've been focused on DATs, the digital asset treasuries, like Evernorth, who started off with $1 billion, expect another $1 billion from them as well. But you know what? There's more than those two. Here's a short little thing that will actually be nibbling over your XRP supply over the period of time. One, it's a deflationary asset. There's a limited supply of only 100 billion, a circulating supply only of about, let's call it like 50 billion, give or take. And then it's also deflationary. Every time that XRP is used, a little bit of XRP is burnt. That's number one. RLUSD will also push the price of XRP up. Real world tokenization, real world asset tokenization, whether it's our US treasuries or any other asset going on. So exciting. I can't wait for the Texas stock market to open up between BlackRock and Citadel. Expect some news between Citadel and Ripple Prime in the future as well. We'll cross our fingers. Also, those ETFs, absolutely massive wall of money. We talked about it here. Unbelievable amount of money. And again, per Jay Claver, we could go from 10 to 50 to 100 on that. I definitely believe it's true. And don't forget, I left one out of here. This would actually be for a top 10. That would be the IPO market. The real USD has been used for a line of credit for IPOs, including securitized at 1.25 billion. And then also, in addition to that, we got the government strategic reserves. We talked about a couple of countries doing that. U.S. has alluded to it, as well as I think UAE or Saudi did. And also, don't forget that there'll be more to come. And the biggest thing to think about is that escrow that Ripple has. When, if ever, do we hear about that escrow? When Mar-a-Lago, Brad Garlinghouse, Trump, and Stuart Alderati got to meet with them, and they had that delicious meal called beef bourguignon. So anyway, that's just another one. Then last but not least, this retail FOMO. Yeah, it's true. You look at some, statistically speaking, looking over the years, retail jumps in, you can get some crazy moves. Just while I was talking about how Zcash did a 12x within 30 days, going from $55 to $700. That's one more. And then let's see what we got. I might have another one. And then last but not least, the flip the switch moment when XRP starts to be used for wholesale payments. And final on that note, for not only Ty, but also Jay Claver saying that when XRP gets to $100, maybe possibly even 50, it's high enough that it can actually start being used to send wholesale payments. Phil Kwok up on X for a quote of the day, the second one, RLUSD will bring the world to the XRP rails, and I believe that 100% too. So that's been kind of quiet here lately, so let's see if we get some news out of that. And by the way, this is the other thing, we have the Clarity Act. That's just actually so painstaking to watch that. Brian Armstrong did comment today that he thinks that by December 18th we'll have a markup perhaps, but don't look for it to actually kind of happen. Right now, I give it a 20% chance of Clarity Act being passed in December, if not 10, and then I'm leaning more towards 80-90% by Q1. Excruciating to see, but we'll see. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. And worth repeating, Jay Claver says today, he says, Turkey Day, it's going to be a good day. That's a week from tomorrow. A good day. What's a good day? Well, I wish he would define a good day. Jake, if you define it for us in terms of a dollar sign, ka-ching, and he says Christmas is going to be great. A great Christmas. What does a great Christmas mean when it comes to price? I would think that's at least a 20, 50, 100. Could it happen? Anything can happen in this space. And last but not least, I'm thinking about, if it doesn't happen, what are we looking at for the end of the year in case we don't have the Clarity Act? And so far, is it going to be a $2 XRP, a 5, a 10, or 20? Do we reach the heights of $5, $50, or 100? Comment down below. I'm prepared for either way. I said I hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And I kind of get my mindset on that, which I'll be talking about and addressing before this episode is over. Now, for me, I'm actually just focused on the things that we can measure and quantify. And the biggest one right now is just simply the ETFs. We got 9 of them. So as we start to dig down and realize how potentially that could be, Poolside Chad did the numbers for us. He said with all 9, we could potentially reach a height of not $100, but can you say $220 per your XRP? I think that would be saying, be still my XRP beating heart. And then, yes. And then the question is, how fast and furious will that appetite be for these ETFs with that wall of money coming for us here at the end of the year? Christmas around the corner, the Thanksgiving around the corner, where people typically spend and focus on Christmas, get out of work, and so on. So will it take 4 weeks, or could it take 12 months to come to fruition? Comment down below. Also want to know what you guys think. And also that bank license, that's just one of many things that I think no later. I give it a 90% odds that it's done by December 18th. That's less than a month from now or sooner. And if we get that, expect fireworks to come out from announcements from Ripple, how they're going to utilize that. And think about all the things that we'll get as far as announcements when that we haven't seen yet. Will it probably need the Clarity Act to pass? Probably so. So we got to be patient on that. So again, I just hope we have $20 by the end of the year. If we had higher, that's going to be a great year for me. And what you need to know when it comes to, okay, what do you need to know to create generational wealth, and how do you need to do it? So nothing is happening with regs. And so what you got to realize is really nothing's going to happen until regulations are in place and they go live. I mentioned that several times, unless of course we have a liquidity crisis, price before regs, in which case XRP comes in to settle the back end of the stock market and the derivatives market. That could probably happen. But in the meantime, these are my top 5 or 6 things to do, not financial advice. 1, buy the dip. We can't always buy the dip, okay? 2, you're on the other side of that coin and you have to sell your XRP. In my humble opinion, what I try to do is at least limit how much I need to sell. Try to sell other things I can part with first before I sell my XRP. 3, make sure your custody in the right place, though you don't lose your crypto. There's a risk with everything that you do, whether it's on exchanges, whether it's on cold storage, whether it's in other platforms that we had mentioned here as well that we actually like for custody. We like for custody Caleb and Brown, iTrust, and also my ROI one. Those are my top 3, in addition to cold storage. And number 4, it's like, when it comes to yields, be patient for yield. So anyway, you may want to wait for yields, but if you are going to do a yield, make sure that you trust it and you are comfortable in getting it, and that's not at risk your XRP. Do your due diligence on there. Number 5, take profits when you need to. Yes, I'll be taking profits along the way, a little cream along the top, so to speak. But also beyond that, it says know your XRP exit strategy. So know in advance where you want to take profit and why, and where you might want to rotate those profits in. Number 7, protect your XRP at all costs. That may also potentially include setting up an LLC. If you're interested in that, you can email me your name and number and a good time to call. Also in the description, because I have options for you to help you guys with that. And number 8, after we become a stable coin, I do not advise doing it before then, because you could get liquidated borrowing against your XRP. Once we have a stable coin, not financial advice, but for me, when I know it's stable, that's when I'll borrow against my XRP. I think it's a great way that you can not have to sell your XRP and also just live off the yield. If we have a guaranteed yield that you can take advantage of, never have to sell your XRP and pass it on to family or other loved ones or friends, or help just other people. All right. And then, yes, price by regs. Okay, let's time to take a look. This is from X up on Twitter to end this episode on what could and may not happen over the next end of this quarter as well as Q1. X on Twitter says, before the end of the year, we will see a black swan event, most likely caused by the liquidity crisis in Japan. That would be called price before regs. Jake Claver has mentioned it many times on this channel. Will we have it by the end of this year in the next 40 days? Or, as ExtraBot mentioned, it might happen within Q1 of 2026. Sounds like a 4-digit XRP is incoming to me, and it does indeed sound like a bigger boat. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.